Hello everyone, welcome to the stream. Like and subscribe if you're new and you're watching this on replay. Tonight we're talking about the LaBianca's again, because after I did the first LaBianca stream, I never really read much out from the homicide report of that. I just sort of gave a general summary, because it was at that time it was really hard to find any sort of proper summary of what happened. And so tonight I'm actually going to be reading some stuff out from the homicide reports. There's two. There's a part 1 and a part 2 of the homicide report, the first and second one. And there's just like this is like one of the more overlooked Manson murders. You don't hear so much about it, but they were interesting people too. And also there's more stuff they've tried to cover up. They try and like make out that this house was randomly selected and these were just two innocent people sat there. But actually the Manson family had stayed at the house right next door to the LaBianca's, and there'd possibly been a confrontation between Leno, LaBianca, and Charlie and all this sort of stuff in the past, and like they tried to cover this up, and like that's another thing to look at. And also in the homicide report there's just a lot of interesting stuff, but for the sake of time tonight I'm going to only look at Leno, LaBianca, what it says about Leno, because there's loads of stuff about Rosemary as well. And just generally talk about the crime scene and the list of suspects. Yeah, because there's some wacky sounding suspects as well, and it shows as well that they weren't living in a safe area. It was a strange area they were living in, and there was lots of like dangerous stuff going on around them. So like it wasn't actually that strange. And also they've been broken into before. There was lots going on. Well, in the first LaBianca stream that I did, I talked about Alice LaBianca saying that Leno had written to her saying that pot parties had been broken up in a house nearby, and that's probably Harold True's house that he's talking about there, and that's possibly made a confrontation with Charlie and all that sort of thing. I haven't seen that. What they said that about Stephen Parent? Yeah, I think they did actually, didn't they? Yeah, I remember them thinking about that. And also, yeah, because I found out, it doesn't say this in the police report, but it's come out since that Stephen Parent had been done for burgling audio equipment from schools, and he was like into audio equipment, wasn't he? And there's a stereo that went missing from the CIO drive that isn't mentioned in the police report. But then there's always things that the police withhold from the public, isn't there? Because they know if someone's telling the truth, because they know about something that was withheld from the public, sort of thing. So maybe that's why that isn't in the police report that's out to the public, sort of thing. And yeah, because I've got quite a lot to read out, I'm just going to get on with reading from the homicide report. Sorry, just going to get this off the screen. Well, first I'll show you again what the crime scene looked like. See Rosemary in the bedroom, and Leno is in the living room, and he was like actually more behind the sofa, so you couldn't see him until you'd walk around the sofa. You could see him immediately after walking into the room, obviously. And yeah, and this is where all the writing was. I've pointed to Rise is written above the front door, Death to Pigs is written on the other wall there, and Helter, Skelter was written on the fridge. And they talk about a piece of paper being found on the floor in the dining room, which is what they believe the writing was done with. It says the crime scene was the residence of the victims, Leno and Rosemary LaBianca. It is a one-story single-family dwelling located on a quiet income residential neighbourhood. Directly west of the scene is the old estate of Elsie Anthony. On the east and across the street are residences similar to the LaBianca's. On the north and directly to the rear is a sloping hillside with no immediate structures. The victims met their demise as the result of multiple stab wounds. Mr. LaBianca's body was located on the living room floor, lying face up diagonally by the south couch. His hands were tied behind his back with leather thongs, and his head was covered with a pillowcase. It appeared that he had been throttled with a lamp cord, which was still attached to a massive lamp located beside the couch. A throw pillow from the couch was over his face. Mr. LaBianca bled profusely from the many stab wounds onto the seat cushions of the couch and floor, immediately to the body. He was attired in pyjamas with the button-up shirt partially open, exposing his rather large stomach. There were 4 stab wounds in the abdomen, inscribed by slashes on the exposed stomach area, where the letters "War." Sticking out of the stomach near the navel was a bitined carving fork, which had been pushed through the abdominal flesh to the bifurcation of the tines. On the coffee table, directly by the couch, was a freshly printed version of the Sunday Morning Los Angeles Times, 8/10/69. In particular, the sports section appeared to have been read. Mr. LaBianca's eyeglasses were also located on the coffee table, indicating that he was sitting on the couch reading the sports section. There was no indication of a struggle in the living room or dining room portion of the residence, and nothing appeared to be disturbed except for a tapestry that had been removed from the north wall in the living room and placed resting perpendicular against the same wall where the tapestry had hung, and above several paintings were the words "Death to Pigs" printed in blood on the south wall of the living room directly to the left of the front door. The word "Rise" was printed in blood. On the kitchen refrigerator door were the printed words "Helter, Skelter," with the Helter being misspelled. A raffled piece of paper was found in the dining room, stained with blood and frayed on one end, indicating the paper was probably used as the instrument to print the above words. There were no obvious blood splatters located within the home, but there were traces of blood in the kitchen sink and in the rear bathroom located by the rear door. Mrs. LaBianca's body was located on the master bedroom floor, lying face down, parallel to the bed and dresser. She had bled profusely from the many stab wounds onto the floor immediate to the body. Directly by her feet on the floor was a large blood stain leading from the torso, indicating she had crawled approximately 2 feet. There were no blood splatters in the room. A pillowcase was also covering her head, with the electrical cord from one of the 2 toppled bedside lamps wrapped around her neck. This indicated she crawled until the electrical cord became taut, causing both the mutually connected lamps to fall. She was attired in a nightgown and peignoir. Both the nightgown and peignoir were up over her shoulders and head, exposing her buttocks and back. There were numerous stab wounds observable on the buttocks and back. There was no evidence of ransacking or obviously missing property. Go back to this, and I've got the other pictures of the injuries of them. See how Rosemary was stabbed. See a couple of wounds in the front of her body. Wound on her face, and mainly the wound in her back, obviously. And it's the lower one on her neck was a fatal wound. And Leno had you can see where they had carved war in him, and the fork was left sticking out of his stomach, and he had a knife right through his neck that was left in his neck. So yeah, pretty horrible. And I've read out how in the original Leslie stream that I did, and I've also done clips of it, but I've read out how she described what happened at the LaBianca's in the sentencing phase of their first trial. That's the only account we get from any of them about what happened at the LaBianca's, actually, because Kremwinkle and Tex have never said anything about what happened, publicly anyway, that we know about. There's been no police interviews with them about the LaBianca's. And weirdly, in his psychiatry report, he never gets asked about the LaBianca murders, he only gets asked about Cielo Drive. Charles Watson. Oh, thank you. Great content. Yeah, well, this is that was the crime scene. Because I never actually read that out in the first one. I just gave an idea. Yeah, it talks about how the where the writing was, and they took down tapestries. And I thought it was strange that they didn't steal more as well. Obviously, as I said in the last stream, because there was loads of guns, and I might show the photos later. Depends what we get to. Hello everyone, yeah. Okay. You got Lee Wilson, Robin Owens, hello Robin. And Capone, of course. And Mike. Where's Mike? That's it. Mike there. Yeah. Yeah, I can't understand why Garretson was allowed to live as well, why they let Garretson live if they killed everyone else. Because I can't believe they didn't find him. That's the other thing. But Parent as well. I don't believe that Parent died first, like they said, though. I think he probably witnessed it and was trying to escape after the murders had started. And he wasn't really getting away. Oh, thank you, Mike. I've got a new dress on. I've got this look. So it looked kind of 60s. Next to it. I didn't realise that this is a little like mushroom house in the middle here. It's like I think it's meant to be like. Oh no, they're birds. These are birds and flowers. The embroidery, and it's from a shop called Monsoon. I don't know if you have the equivalent in America, but it's so it would have been really expensive. This probably would have been about 75 quid or something. It's got the puffy sleeves at the top, and all this detail, and on the cuffs. Right. Very nice. So I'm drinking this. Carthy's. Oh. Yeah, you can't see it, can you? The glares. Oh, there you can. Carthy's Country Cream. It's like the cheap version of Bailey's from the British supermarket Iceland. They used to do one called Irish Meadows that was much nicer. This isn't as nice. It's kind of as an aftertaste of nail varnish remover the first time you switch from it. Yeah, there's stars on the tights as well. Stars and moons and all that, but yeah, I doubt that showed up in the picture. Yeah. But yes, and so what was I going to read next? Yeah, like I say, for tonight, I'm just going to stick to what they say about Leno. Well, the list of suspects is pretty wacky. Because also, they give the impression that these people were living in a safe area and it was unusual. But actually, when you read the homicide report, there was actually many, many suspects. Oh, yes, the Leno fraud thing, right? Let's get down to that. Subsequent investigation into the business dealings of Mr. LaBianca revealed he had been misappropriating money from his own company's treasury. The bookkeeping records of the Gateway Market showed a deficit of approximately $200,000 since 1964. This deficit was discovered in June 1969 by other family board members. To the family's astonishment, it was learned that after Mr. LaBianca's death, he owned 9 thoroughbred racehorses, including Kildare Lady, one of the more prominent horses. Mr. LaBianca was a chronic gambler, particularly a horse bettor. It would not be uncommon for him to wager $500 a day. Every racing day he frequented the various racetracks, and it is not known at this time if he used the services of a bookmaker. The information regarding Mr. LaBianca's misappropriation of company funds and gambling habits was supplied to the company bookkeeper, Ray Norwood, he gives these statistics and all that, and Pete DeSantis, brother-in-law of co-board member. Further investigation also revealed Mr. LaBianca had outstanding personal loans amounting to approximately $30,000. On August 10th, 1969... Sorry, now we're about to... Yeah, sorry, it jumps about a lot, this report. Right, see there, that's just another dodgy thing about Leno LaBianca. So yeah, and there's more about him having a gambling habit. Yeah, well, but I want to read about the suspects first, so hang on. Oh, Sam's here. Hello, Sam. Yeah, I mentioned that in the first LaBianca stream, because there's a clip of Alice LaBianca being interviewed about that. She says she was told that by a cop at the time that Leno had possibly had a confrontation with Manson, while there was a pot party going on at the house next door. And if I go on the slides, I can show you how close Harold True's house was to the LaBianca's. Where is it? Oh, yeah, look. See, there's the Harold True's house is the bigger one on the side. Hi, Linda. Yeah. Prior to his marriage to Rosemary, Leno was married to the present Mildred Alice Findlay. CPA investigators have not yet interviewed Miss Findlay or her 3 children. Leno is the father of these children. After his divorce from Findlay, Leno supposedly dated several women. Investigators have only been able to locate one. Peggy Ann McClellan first met Leno in 1952 when they bowled on a team sponsored by the Sons of Italy. McClellan's husband, Benny Gianpetro, sorry if I butchered that, was a friend of Leno's. McClellan was a friend of Leno's. McClellan did not date Leno until 1957. She described him as bashful and sexually cold. She recalled he was self-conscious of his height around women who were taller than himself. She last saw Leno in 1963. However, she had not dated him since her marriage in October 1958. In his first interview, Roxy Lucarelli stated that Leno had received a telephone call from a female stating she was in trouble and wanted to meet with Leno. Lucarelli further added that Link Warman, a friend of Leno's, knew about the telephone call, and the girl was supposedly a Hollywood prostitute. Link Warman was interviewed regarding this female. He could not recall any such conversation with Leno regarding this particular person. However, he did state that Leno had a girlfriend approximately 10 years ago who was possibly a prostitute. He could not recall her name, nor could he supply investigators with an address. A further check of possible girlfriends was conducted by reviewing Leno's personal telephone book with negative results. This phase of the investigation is continuing in order to determine if he had a code by which he would conceal their names. Investigators found that Peggy McClellan's name was listed in the book. Ray Norwood, Treasurer and Controller for Gateway Markets, was interviewed and polygraphed at Parker Center. The polygraph showed he had no guilty knowledge of the crime. He has been an employee of the company for 23 years. He admitted knowing that Leno LaBianca had been taking money from the company for the past 8 or 9 years. He estimated that between 1961 and 66, Leno had taken $80,000 from the company. This amount was over and above his salary and normal expenses. There was an additional documented $43,000 taken by Leno between 1966 and 69. It was Leno's habit to take $1,500 once or twice a week from the company. The money was taken in 2 ways. Leno would go to one of the markets, take cash and fill out a voucher in duplicate showing he had taken the money. The copy went from the store to the main office. Leno returned the original copy and later surrendered it to Norwood. Norwood was therefore not involved and commented that whatever Leno did, he did alone. The other method Leno used to obtain extra money was to instruct Norwood to make out a check to him. Norwood had possession of the checks, but could not make or sign them. Dolores Brown, Leno's secretary, was the only person who could make out the checks, and Leno was the only one authorized to sign them. Norwood would give Brown a check and have her make it out and return it to Leno for him to sign and cash. Leno had complete control of the check system. Leno did repay some of the money he took. He returned $15,000 in December 1966 and $30,000 in 1969. Leno did not get along with Peter Smaldino, the third partner in the firm. Leno complained to Norwood that Smaldino kept his eye on everything he did, and the company sold some of their stores. Kept his eye on everything he did. The company sold some of their stores to Mayfair Markets, incorporated in 1964, and received $400,000 cash. The sale created a situation whereby the company would have to be paying the same number of executive salaries, but with less income. It was decided that one of the 3 partners, LaBianca, Smaldino, or DeSantis, would have to leave to reduce expenses. Smaldino agreed to leave, but insisted that his stock be redeemed in cash. He was given $250,000 in cash. Norwood believed it was not a wise business move to give a partner so much currency, but Leno did it to eliminate Smaldino. Leno was then able to do as he pleased, as DeSantis was too busy with his Lodge, Sons of Italy work and never challenged Leno. Peter Smaldino and his family have been friends with the LaBianca's for as long as he could remember. He and Leno worked together for Gateway Markets after the war. Leno worked mostly for state wholesale grocers, and he Smaldino, worked for the real retail end of the business, Gateway Markets. When Leno's father died, Leno became president of the corporation. Smaldino said he recognized Leno as the boss and always complied with his decisions. When the corporation sold some of its markets for a large cash amount, he left the corporation to become his own boss. While working at Gateway Markets, he had purchased 2 liquor stores. He cashed out of the corporation and invested his money in other stores. Smaldino stated he got along well with Leno as a person, although they did have business disagreements. He did not socialize with Leno, even though he was married to one of his sisters. He was not aware that Leno was taking money from the company until Leno's mother informed him of the fact. Smaldino was polygraphed but showed no guilty knowledge of the crime. He had no idea who murdered Leno, but openly admitted he thought it might be the Mafia. His belief that the Mafia is responsible for the murder is based on his information that Leno was a heavy gambler and in debt. All of this information concerning Leno's activities was admittedly hearsay. Peter DeSantis, Leno's other brother-in-law, was interviewed and polygraphed at the Parker Center. The polygraph exam indicated he had no guilty knowledge of the crime. DeSantis has been a lifelong friend of Leno and described him as family. They worked together at the market for Leno's father in the 40s. Leno later ran the operation of the state wholesale grocers, a second company owned by Leno's father, Smaldino and brother-in-law, ran the Gateway Market chain. When Leno's father died, the two companies were then managed by Leno, although they remained separate. DeSantis believes Smaldino resented Leno being the boss, as he, Smaldino, knew more about the business. Smaldino kept a constant check on Leno's activities in the business, and Leno resented Smaldino's supervision. Leno once commented to Norwood when discussing how he was taking money from the company by writing checks that he couldn't have done it when Smaldino was around because Smaldino checked him too closely. Leno's mother was the first to spot him taking money from the company. DeSantis claimed he was shocked as the two had discussed ways to cut expenses to help the company. Leno told DeSantis in June 1969 that he was going to leave the company. DeSantis discussed Leno's future plans with him. Leno told DeSantis that he had no definite plans for employment. He mentioned going into an investment situation with 3 other men. Each man was to put up $25,000. The only man in the group that Leno mentioned was Bill O'Brien. After Leno's death, DeSantis learned he was planning to buy a ranch for $127,000 in Vista, California. DeSantis couldn't understand where Leno was going to get the money to purchase the property, pay back the money he had borrowed from the company, and go into the investment business. DeSantis is the regional head of a fraternal organization, the Sons of Italy. The region extends from the Colorado to Hawaii. DeSantis refused the idea that the mafia could have been responsible for the crime. He commented that if they had, he would probably have heard about it. Right, yeah, it gets very convoluting. So, yeah, what did everyone have to say about that? I don't know if it was a hearing, or was it because she's appealed, isn't she? Are they hearing her appeal? I don't know if it's another hearing or an appeal. I think it's an appeal, isn't it? Spoiler alert, though. She won't get out. They won't give her parole. Just try and read out the list of suspects from the first Homicide report, actually, because that's interesting. Joseph Thomas Dorgan. This is her daughter's boyfriend. So Susan Struthers, Rosemary LaBianca's daughter's boyfriend. Subject has an arrest record for possession of dangerous drugs and a conviction in July 1968 and they give you the numbers, for Grand Theft Auto. He's Susan Struthers' fiancé and one of the individuals who discovered Mr. LaBianca's body. Investigation disclosed that Mrs. LaBianca did not approve of Susan's relationship with Dorgan. A polygraph examination was administered by England SID on August 14, 1969. The examination proved negative, even though he admittedly smoked marijuana 2 hours prior to the examination. The subject's prints were taken for elimination. Struthers. So yeah, her daughter is considered a suspect as well. Susan Ray, aka Susan Ray Struthers, with no criminal record. They give you a statistics. Subject has many disagreements with the victims over her relationship with Joseph Dorgan. She was a suspect in the fraudulent use of a credit card in January 1968 involving Dorgan. Sergeant McRobbie Van Nuys forgery investigated the case, but criminal prosecution was not sought because Mr. LaBianca made restitution. The polygraph examination was administered by Funk SID on August 21st, 1969. The examination proved negative and our prints were taken for elimination. And Frank Struthers, so that's the son of Rosemary, I think, isn't it? Yeah. Subject was arrested in May of this year for 602 WIC. Don't know what the hell that means. Oh, where he was a passenger in a stolen car. All right. Subject was at the crime scene approximately 2 hours before the bodies were discovered. The polygraph examination was administered by Sergeant Howell. The examination proved negative and his prints were obtained for elimination. And then there's this Orville Allen O'Brien. Subject is an acquaintance of Frank Struthers Jr. in the past has expressed animosity towards the LaBiancas, interviewed and eliminated August 14, 1969, because of his detention at Sylmar Juvenile Hall during the commission of the crime. And then Giancarlo Negrini. Subject is an acquaintance of Frank Struthers Jr. in the past has expressed animosity towards the LaBiancas. He was interviewed and eliminated on August 14, 1969. Because of his detention at Sylmar Juvenile Hall during the commission of the crime. Vittoria Negrini. Another subject acquaintance of Frank Strabber's in the past has expressed animosity towards LaBianca. He was interviewed and eliminated through investigation. He was printed for elimination purposes. Dexter Louis. Subject was in company of Vittorio Negrini. He was interviewed as well. Michael Timothy Flaherty, another acquaintance of Frank Struthers Jr. and the Negrini brothers. He was interviewed on the 13th, 1969 and eliminated through investigation. John Hiroshi Ibuski, male, Japanese, has a past arrest record for possession of dangerous drugs. His father, Roy Ubasuki, was the LaBianca family gardener until a business dispute terminated that arrangement. He has worked with his father at the LaBianca residence and was familiar with the layout of the house. He was interviewed August 15th, 1969, and prints were obtained for elimination purposes. Roy Ubasuki, male, Japanese, subject was the LaBianca family gardener until a business dispute terminated that arrangement. He was interviewed on August 18th, 1969, and eliminated through investigation as well. Richard Irvin, known narcotics user and residential burglar operating in the Hollywood division. There's no physical way to connect the subject to the scene of the crime. And investigators have been unable to locate him for interview. His prints were not at the scene. John Reese Jones, a known narcotics user and residential burglar operating in the Hollywood division. There's no physical way to connect the subject to the scene of the crime, and investigators have been able to locate him. And Jones and Dodd have been known to work together. Michael Carlisle McNally, ex-employee of the Gateway Markets and was dismissed for theft. He has an arrest record for using narcotics and is reportedly a user of heroin. He frequents the area surrounding the LaBianca residence. Investigators have been unable to locate subject for interview. There was a no make on fingerprints, but the palm prints need for elimination. Leonard Pozella, felony warrant and bench warrant for him, forged prescription. State narcotics investigators are handling. Subject has resided with his mother, Julia Pozella, at 3267 Waverley Drive. This residence is directly east of the LaBianca's residence. He has mental problems. In the past, he claims he blacks out for periods of time and is not responsible for his actions. He has threatened his ex-wife with a knife and has stated that he will cut her head off. He has been convicted of the 245 PC ADW and has many drunk arrests. He is currently being sought on the felony warrant for forgery and a prescription. And investigators have been unable to locate him. No make on fingerprints, but need palm prints for elimination. Rodney Davis, associated with Joseph Dorgan, has been arrested numerous times. Dorgan was staying with the subject on the night of the homicides. He was interviewed but claimed no knowledge of the LaBianca's. His prints were obtained for elimination purposes. Right, so yeah, you hear about all those suspects, like the crazy people living in the area. It suddenly doesn't sound so crazy, does it? This happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. When I get in, like next week, I'm going to talk about what Rosemary was saying. She said to her friends, that people kept breaking in while they're out, and they kept coming back and finding the dogs inside the house or outside the house when they shouldn't be or whatever. So people have been coming in while they were out, and they knew it. So yeah, they weren't safe. Yeah. Yeah, Rosemary's Baby and her boyfriend Joe Dorgan were arrested for car theft. Yeah, and Leno Bowder, but it's, credit card. Yeah, the credit card fraud thing. Yeah, I read that out a minute ago, didn't I? Yeah. I was afraid of her daughter. I've heard as well. The other rumor is that they were dealing drugs together. Though that Rosemary was somehow involved in selling acid with her daughter. Yeah. And it repeatedly says in the report that she didn't like her boyfriend. She didn't like her dating her boyfriend. And that was like what her big problem was. Hi, Charlie. Yeah, sorry, that was really clunky. When I get through to edit it, I'll cut out all the bits where I'm just fumbling around. It's really hard to scroll in that I don't have Office. I have the bloody open Office, and it's really difficult to scroll through that easily. I should just do the screenshot slideshow thing like I normally do. But yeah, I don't want to do like really long streams because it's too much information all in one go. So yeah, that's sort of enough for one stream, I think. We'll just comment about that. Counting diagrams, look out there. Look. So yeah, and apparently the piece of paper, I'll have to, yeah, because I've still got this diagram in Canva. I can add where the bit of paper was found to try and work out exactly where they found the bit of paper. Yeah. What, Susan Struthers, do you mean? And there's agreed that there's, what else was there? Yeah, there's always been the rumour, yeah, that there's a link between Tex, that Tex knew this, the boyfriend of Susan Struthers. But yeah, I'm going to get there because that warrants a whole stream of itself, because that is really, really odd what Susan LaBerge does years later, who is Susan Struthers, later becomes Susan LaBerge. And on one of Texas parole hearings, she shows up and says that they should free him, makes a statement for him. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it comes from Alice LaBianca, guys. They heard that Susan and Rosemary were dealing drugs. That is something that was said. And yeah, probably Joe Dorgan as well. But there's always been like a rumor that Tex knew Susan LaBerge, and because of the way this crime went down, because the dogs didn't bark and all that, and they didn't, there was no sounds of distress and screaming and all that. It makes me wonder: was it meant to be a staged robbery? But they spun on them and murdered them. They weren't supposed to kill them; they were just supposed to tie them up and rob them and just leave them. And then the kids were meant to come in the morning and free them, but they murdered them. Maybe. You wait till I read what it says about Rosemary in the police report, even. You know what I mean? It's not that unlikely. LSD wasn't even illegal until what, the mid '60s, was it? That's it. Yeah, that's it. Some of her relatives said she was dealing acid. It wasn't, yeah, just in police reports. Their relatives believed it. Yeah, that's it, yeah, because like I say, getting into Susan Struthers, that's a whole other thing. Yeah, well, I might as well end this soon. Because that was all I was... Yeah, well, they were being burgled repeatedly. They were being broken into, so they were probably calling the police and asking the police to watch their house, because but they were scared as well. That there's loads of sources reporting they were scared for their lives. And they had told the kids that it wasn't safe to come to their house, the area they were living in. And we're not told that. Well, I just read out the list of suspects, didn't I? There was that mental case. Did you not hear the guy who had the mental health issues, who threatened to cut his wife's head off? He was living just behind their house. And they were talking about all those burglars that operated in that area. Drug-crazed burglars that were in the area, And pot parties in the first stream, I talked about Alice LaBianca getting a letter from Leno saying that a pot party was broken up just next door to their house. And we know that Harold True lived in the house right next door to them. And the family actually lived there with their black bus and that. It was a dangerous area. It wasn't a safe area. That was what it's all about. Yeah. It's a typical suburban couple who had massive gambling debts to the mafia, and fucking also, well, wait till we get into Rosemary and all her apparent lesbian lovers that she had. And it gets into how it sounds like Leno couldn't get out what he's described as sexually cold by one woman. And then they say that how it didn't look like Leno and Rosemary were having any sex. And lots of people suspected Rosemary was having an affair. Yeah, that's it with speed, wasn't it? And everyone got so high on the speed. That's it, I'm not going to read any more out tonight, because it's too much information all in one go. So yeah, next week I'll talk about Rosemary. So that's when it gets more interesting. Yeah, I'll probably end this now actually, and I'll come back and do an after stream. So yeah, thanks for coming everyone anyway. And I'll edit this, it'll be up tomorrow afternoon. I've done a Witches and Mendocino show. We've already done it. It's the Murders of Clyde Delaney. That one is the Mendocino Witches one. Yeah, that's it. Blue collar criminal, Leno is the white collar criminal. Yeah. Rosemary was another one of the wig salesmen as well, weren't she? Like every fucking person in this fucking story for some reason as well. Yeah, I've done the Mendocino Witches. That's the Murders of Clyde Delaney and Nancy Warren. It's all part of that. That's why the Manson family are suspected of that. And I kind of think, maybe. Yeah. Yeah, I meant to mention at the beginning as well. If you're a new subscriber as well, there's the bloody playlist of the Charles Manson case. And I've put all the events in order of when they happened for people to be able to work out why the hell these murders happened the way they did, and to be able to see the patterns and how unlikely the Helter Skelter narrative sounds when you look at how everything pans out. It's important to see how they all happen, because they play down the Bernard Crow thing. They don't want you to. There's lots of things they don't want you to look at. They just want you to concentrate on certain aspects. It quickly falls apart when you look at the whole thing, and you can see that they were lying desperately about something. Yeah, I'll end this now and go to an after stream because I'm just sitting there in silence for too long. And yeah, I'll come back and do an after show. Okay. So thanks for coming, everyone. Anyway, and like I say, next week I'll talk about the Rosemary aspects of the thing.